Hey friends, Peggy Hall back with you from thehealthyamerican.org. You are not going to believe my continuing coverage on all of the corruption of these government agents, the public serpents, as they call them. And, Mayorkas is in the news. And let me just share my screen because we are going to be talking about how this fellow figures into the corruption and the facilitating of the migrant invasion into the United States. Yes, which one is Jeff Bezos and which one is Mayorkas? They look like brothers, don't they, or cousins, or father and son, or something. And yes, they both have ties to communist Cuba. Stick with me because I'm going to be sharing all of the details with you, all of the dirty details with you. And I do have to warn you that this video comes with a vomit warning. Let me just cut to the chase that Mayorkas is involved in the millions and millions, and dare I say, millions of dollars that are being funneled to Central America and South America. So they actually have the red carpet rolled out for these migrants to come to the United States. I want to give you all of the details. Friends, I have a Substack for you. What is the Substack? I've been telling you about it. It's my blog. It is a newsletter. And this is where I give you a written format and my written analysis of these burning issues that are affecting all of us. So a Jewish group is getting millions of dollars from the United States to facilitate the migrant invasion. And Mayorkas, who is Cuban Jewish, is involved. Now, the reason why I mention the heritage is because it figures into the piece of the story. And as I say, this comes with a vomit warning. All of you authentic Americans like I am, that's the phrase that I'm going to use, who have earned your own way, who have made sacrifices, worked for money. You did not get any handouts. You experienced the lean financial years and the trials and tribulations that come from making it on your own. This story probably is going to upset your stomach like it has mine, especially if you are someone like me with ethics and values and morals and principles and standards and a desire for justice for all. I'm not talking about social justice. I'm not talking about climate justice. And for heaven's sakes, I'm not talking about gender justice. That's actually a thing, don't you know? But I'm talking about the true definition of justice, which is very simple. It's the equal application of the law. Now, I know that many of you have been discriminated against. Oh my gosh, wait until I bring you an upcoming story of healthy Americans that are still fighting their employer, and wait until you hear what these attorneys want as a way for you to prove that you're sincere. Well, do gay people have to prove that they're gay, or can they just be fired? Do the transatlantic people, there's my new phrase, do the transatlantic people have to prove that they are transatlantic, or do they just get a pass? Because those of you that have a religious, ethical, moral objection to becoming a human pincushion, they pull out all the stops and they don't believe you. So yes, I've been fighting this injustice for a long, long time, and I want everybody to be treated equally. So I don't think anybody should get a special privilege or preference. Maybe that's just me. You probably think this is my pie in the sky, wishful thinking again, because I know I am somewhat of an optimist, but I need to be in order to keep going. So the principles of justice and fairness, maybe fairness isn't the word because life isn't fair, but just is when you apply the law equally, not like the corrupt public serpents that are married to high-ranking judges that happen to get my lawsuit swept off into the Netherlands. But I do believe that striving for these principles of justice, or the principle of justice, is definitely worth fighting for. Principles of truth, of freedom, all of these, that's what I've been doing here at the Healthy American for several years. I will continue to strive and struggle and support those of you who are joining me in standing for these principles. I will explain, exhort, encourage, empower those who are willing to take up the fight alongside me. And I do realize how exhausting this can be, friends. I do get exhausted. I know it seems like I'm, the eternal cheerleader, and I am, thanks to God and his good grace, which he has given me this energy and ebullience and endurance to keep fighting. But we keep getting sloshed with this hogwash again and again. And as I'm about to share with you, this latest account of how your money, 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 money that you work for, that you have earned, that is rightly yours, that is being stolen out of your pocket and out of your paycheck, out of your retirement, out of your Social Security, month in, month out. Now, if that money actually was going to pay for veterans or better roads or clean air, security along the borders, I might think a little differently about how this tax money is stolen out of my pocket. But when this money that's also printed out of thin air is handed over to the migrants, I'm just going to use that word, with no strings attached, literally encouraging them to come to the United States because they claim that they are a victim. I'm sick of the victim status. We're all a victim in some way. Can't we be victors? All right, victors, and be victorious. So they claim that they're a victim, that they're a refugee, they're an asylum seeker, and many of these are in the LGBTQ LMNOP community, because there's probably many more terms that I'm not familiar with, and they're getting top billing status to come to the United States. I've asked it before and I'll ask it again. Why the United States? Why don't just send them to China? There's lots of land. There's lots of empty buildings. Apparently they have a lot of money and they want to control the world. So send these asylum seekers to China. There, problem solved. But wait until you see these smarmy, slimy, scammy ties of the public serpents at the highest level in our government, the ties to these migrants that are being invited in to invade our country with open hands and open pockets, waiting to be filled with your money and your resources that should be going to actual Americans, authentic Americans. What about our veterans? What about the homeless? What about the elderly? What about the low income? What about those that are down on their luck? What about those that are being bankrupt because of the runaway cost of the mainstream medical merry-go-round? I'm certain that there are many healthy Americans that fall into all of those categories. Yes, I'm on a rant today. So listen, I have a huge compassionate heart, as I know you do. And you, like me, probably would be first in line to help out someone who authentically needed it. I've done so my entire life with animal welfare and going in the aftermath of hurricanes in New Orleans to help there, whatever I can do, donating and so forth. I know that you want to make a difference, but to blatantly facilitate the decimation of America and American culture, the American economy, the American climate, American education, American everything, with flooding it with people who want a handout? Well, that would be a big, how do I spell it? N-O. What about the criminals? What about the drug dealers? What about the child traffickers? What about those carrying diseases, that you and I were supposed to get the jab against, and you couldn't go grocery shopping or get on a plane or go on a cruise or send your children to school or sit in a cafe unless you showed your papers? Yes, that's my German accent. What about that? But everybody else is just swept in wholeheartedly without any worry about these diseases, the diseases that you and I were being coerced to be protected against. Who knows who these people are? Friends, they're not escaping their country, all right? They are being brought here. They are being escorted. So they're not escapees. They are being escorted into this country. They are, I don't know how to put it any more clearly. They're not escaping, they are escorted. That is the difference between what I am now going to term as traditional immigrants versus, are you ready for it? Manufactured immigrants or manufactured migrants. I think that sounds a little pithier. Manufactured migrants. Yes, I think that's what I'm going to have to title this. The manufactured migrant situation. It's manufactured because of money, your money and my money. Now, listen, I came from a family of immigrants who made their own way. They got zero help from the government. First of all, there was no help from the government back whenever this was 100 years ago, when my grandfather came to this country, is literally escaping from communist Eastern Europe. And, there were no English as a second language classes. There were no cash cards. There were no food stamps. There was no help with housing, with transportation, with job placement. My immigrant history, probably much like yours if you dig into it, includes people who wanted to assimilate into the United States. Yes, they actually wanted to become American citizens with all of the American traditions and holidays and language. and all of the good things about this country. Now, certainly my family kept its own traditions in terms of, I don't know, Christmas cookie recipes, and maybe they liked certain songs or whatever, but they weren't trying to flood the United States and diminish it and dilute it by instituting their ways in this country. That's why they came to this country, to become American, where these are not immigrants or migrants that are trying to get to the United States. They are basically being fished out of their own homes and communities in far-flung countries, and they're given the red carpet royal treatment, and the welcome wagon is trotted out. Watch my previous videos, friends. It's stunning and despicable. They're given the proverbial bags of cash and other assistance far above and beyond what other authentic Americans are getting. Yes, those are my words: authentic Americans, traditional migrants, and manufactured migrants. They're the ones that are getting the handouts, while many of us are struggling. Now, here's the real dark and dirty details about how the US is actually financially footing the bill to facilitate this manufactured migrant invasion. Try to repeat that again. So there's a Jewish organization. Let me share my screen. We are going to go right on over to HIAS. Let me share my screen. I've got a new camera here. Hopefully it's all working well. And here we are. It's not coming up. Isn't that interesting? Well, how do you like them apples? Let me show you a little bit from my Substack. So a Jewish organization called HIAS. And what I want you to do is look at this picture. Yeah. You see this picture? Here it is on the person's, life preserver, HIAS. And that stands, let's see, not coming up. I find that very interesting, friends, that, the internet likes to sort of prevent me from sharing the truth at every turn. Give me just one moment. All right, I finally got the internet to play nice. Here it is, HIAS. That stands for, I'm going to tell you in just a moment. It has to do with the Hebrew, and I find it very, very interesting that a Jewish nonprofit that is getting millions of American dollars is involved in, let me show you this, what we do. There's the end gender-based violence. So bringing in the LGBTQ refugees. And then let me share with you this, because this is where we really are going to be taking a look at what is going on in Latin America. In fact, let me make sure that this is all queued up for you. All right. This organization, the HIAS, is working in Latin America to actually help these manufactured migrants get to the United States. Let me give you a little bit of background here, and then I'm going to share with you some maps and some information that is going to knock your socks off like it did for me. So this HIAS stands for Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. It's been in existence for many, many years. And it gets hundreds of millions of dollars in US funding through the Office of Refugee Settlement. And I shared that with you in a previous video. That is the ORR. That was created by Biden as part of the Department of Health and Human Services in the federal government. This is just a reminder of how bloated and unnecessary and excessive the federal government is in so many of these programs and departments. There's nothing in the Constitution that allows for these unfettered agencies that are just created on a whim. So I've got the ORR website linked for you in my Substack, and you can check that out as well. And you'll see near the bottom that there is a list of agencies that are getting matching grants from your money. And you'll see that HIAS is one of those agencies. In fact, let me just share that with you right here. So this is the Office of Refugee Resettlement. Why the United States? We're being bombarded day in, day out that there's not enough energy. We have to turn off our, electricity. The air and the climate is bad because of too many people, but you're bringing in more people Doesn't make sense to me. So here we are, the Office of Refugee Settlement, and it says this is what it does: case management, employee skills training, job referrals, family budget planning, and housing, utilities, food, transportation, health, and medical, English language training, social adjustment, and other services. Here are some of the resettlement agencies that your money is going towards. And the Church World Service, blah, blah, here it is, HIAS. And they are currently out of MD, that's Maryland. Yes, right next to the CIA, isn't it? And or am I giving you the wrong state? I think that's Maryland. And World Relief. And if you click through these, it will be very interesting to see what programs they're doing. And I clicked through, and here I found out that the HIAS is working in Latin America. Remember, I'm going to tie in the MAYORKAS, Jeff Bezos lookalike thing in just a moment. And this is really stunning to me. It says, the United Nations recognizes HIAS cross-border responses in the Darien Gap. What is the Darien Gap? Well, let's take a look here. Here's a small picture of it between Colombia and Panama. This is basically a jungle, and it's very dangerous and very inaccessible. Apparently, many people find it difficult to get from South America through Central America. Here's a larger map. So here's Colombia. Here's the Darien Gap, basically through the jungle, Panama. And then when I go out a little bit more, you see Costa Rica, and then you're going up through Nicaragua, and then Honduras, and then Guatemala. And then finally, you're getting to Mexico, and then you're getting all the way up here to the border of Texas. And right around here is our Eagle Pass that I showed you before, but there are a lot of places here where people are crossing. So look at that journey. You really think that some, I don't know, 25-year-old, 40-year-old, some grandmother, some child takes it upon themselves to say, you know what, I think we're going to go on a little road trip by foot. Yeah, I know we don't have any money, and we don't have any food, and we don't have any language skills. We don't know anybody in that country, but I think we're just going to hoof it all the way from maybe from South America through the jungle, across Central America, all the way through these other countries, all the way up through Mexico to finally get to Texas, and then arrive with brand new clothes, a backpack with a bottle of water, and it looks like we just got off a plane. Oh no, but we definitely crossed the jungle. Of course we did, because that's what the media says. And that's what HIAS says. And I just showed you a picture, didn't I, about this organization in the boat helping these individuals. So we're told. I think they get here a lot easier than we're told. And here they are. Oh, yes, they're being driven or they're giving a ride on this canoe. Yeah, I bet that's exactly what's happening. But I digress. Let me go on a little bit more. So the HIAS is getting your money from the ORR, and the tagline that HIS, this Jewish organization, has, like, what are they sending to Israel? I'm just asking. It's a socialist country. I think they would fit right in. These people are coming from totalitarian, authoritarian regimes, so they love to follow authority and not question the government. I think it would be perfect for them to go live in Israel. They could become freedom fighters. Yeah, that's a great idea, don't you think? Since Israel gets American tax money, it's just sort of out of one pocket into another. So HIAS, this Jewish organization, has the tagline, "Welcome the stranger, protect the refugee." Okay, at the risk of sounding callous here, why does the United States have to do the heavy lifting for all of these welcoming the strangers and protecting the refugees? What about protecting the American citizens and the veterans and the homeless and the elderly and the low income and others that actually need help? Just asking, just asking. Doesn't China have more land resources? What about Canada? What about Australia? They hardly have any people. Send them all to Australia, out in the bush, and they can do something there. Why does the U.S. have to foot the bill, especially since we're being bombarded day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out with messages such as, we have a pandemic of homelessness, runaway inflation. There's no affordable housing. Where are they going to live? As the climate mongers like to warn us, the scarce energy resources. I mean, come on, what gives? None of this makes any sense whatsoever. But again, the government hardly ever does. So HIAS is spending your tax dollars on getting, guess how many manufactured migrants to come in from South America and Central America, in a canoe across the Darien Gap. Yeah, I'm sure that's what's happening. How many do you think they're bringing in? 10,000? Well, HIAS alone is bringing in 500,000 of these manufactured migrants. Now, you might think that poor immigrants should get the red carpet treatment. They should get the welcome wagon. After all, they're coming from deplorable conditions. They're trying to escape. Don't forget to mention all of the dangers that these asylum seekers face while trying to escape to a better life, right? The issue is that they're not escaping. They are being helped every step of the way. Are you following me? They are being helped every step of the way by HIAS and all those other agencies that I showed you, funded with your money, which if you had, you would be able to afford a better place to live. You'd be able to fix your car, maybe go on a vacation, or I don't know, paint your walls or something. But because the government robs you of your money and gives it, and this is just a drop in the bucket. There are millions and millions and millions of dollars going to Uganda. Don't even talk about Ukraine. I'm talking about weird, strange, different research studies and all of that have nothing to do with us. I am 100% opposed to it. So we looked at the picture of HIAS facilitating the crossing of illegals into the United States. I don't even believe that picture. I think they're flown in and staged at some other airport. There's no way they would be making that journey and look the way that they did. And what about their clothes, their shoes, their backpack, the money, the food? I mean, come on. We have got to get this message out, friends. Would you vow right now that you're going to share this video far and wide? Because I'm going to show you how HIAS describes that they're helping this 500,000 refugees across the dangerous Darien Gap and the Panamanian jungle to grab money, housing, transportation, food, medical care, and jobs that should be going to authentic Americans. You thought these illegals were just poor Mexicans trying to sneak across the border in Tijuana or El Paso. Yeah, no. I think we can put that charade aside. And any of the bleeding heart liberals, I was never a liberal. Well, I don't know, a good liberal, meaning a libertarian. I taught ESL. When I was a child, my dad would drive us in the car and we would pack up, dishes and clothing and all of that. And we would deliver things in Tijuana. I've done different church groups where we're building houses, and I did animal welfare in Tijuana. So I am all about helping those that authentically need our help. But I'm not talking about people of a certain age that are able-bodied, that could get a job. Why should they leave their countries? Why don't they stay there and fix their own problems? That's an option that nobody's ever looking at. This false dichotomy of stay in your country and suffer or come to the United States. No, you can go to all sorts of other countries. And why not stay in your country and try to fix it like we're trying to do here? Okay, here's what the HIAS says. Many refugees, I'm going to share this with you from the Substack, many refugees traverse multiple countries. Yeah, here they are in their canoe. Yeah, right. I'm sure that's exactly it. And they've got a woman doing it. I guess that's, very, very strange here. Many refugees traverse multiple countries in the Americas on their journeys, making it difficult for them to receive adequate protection and continual support. Well, why should they get it? If they want to face a hardship, go face it. To rectify this problem, HIAS has been implementing cross-border programs. Friends, this is right from their website, providing an innovative way to support GBV. Do you know what GBV stands for? I had to look that one up. Let me know in a comment if you know GBV. Gender-based violence. Yeah, gender-based violence. Everything's about gender. Of course it is. And LGBTQ, excuse me, I don't see the plus. Hello? That's very discriminatory to only say that. Funded by all these others, including the United Nations and the Hilton Foundation. I need to dig into that. These programs provide information about risks on the route, psychological counseling services, and legal support to people in Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, and Honduras. Why? People who receive support can be referred to the HIAS offices located in countries further ahead like Mexico and the United States, where staff members are already aware of the complexities of their case. Now, maybe my naivete is showing again, but what if, just what if, all of these millions of dollars, I mean, all snark aside, all of the millions of dollars that we're talking about, what if that money instead went to the very countries of Colombia and Panama and Costa Rica and Honduras? And wouldn't the millions of dollars go even further in those countries? Why not help the individuals improve their own lives in their own country? I said it. How is it I'm the only one that ever thought of that? I'm sure you did as well. But why is that never in the conversation with Brett Weinstein and Tucker Carlson? Inquiring minds want to know. I'm sick of that fear mongering, by the way. Okay. Now, these are rhetorical questions because if HIAS and the federal government actually spent its time, energy, and resources and your tax dollars that they stole out of your paycheck and out of your pocket, out of your retirement, if they actually did something as constructive and impactful as actually working to improve the conditions in the other countries, then they would not be able to carry out their hidden agenda, which is actually their true intention of flooding the United States with low-income wage slaves. Oh, excuse me, low-income wage earners. Yeah, you don't think this is another kind of slave labor thing that's going on here, friends? Come on, come on. All y'all that were against slavery in the South, as I was, you're in favor of this? You got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. You're going to dilute the American culture. You're going to create an entire new pool of Democratic voters, don't you know, who are used to following totalitarian, fascist dictators, dare I say, and therefore will not rock the boat when it comes to following the illegal orders of the government. Oh, is rock the boat a little culturally insensitive here? So sorry. I calls it like I sees it. Here's where it really gets despicable. We are going to come full circle with our friends here, Jeff Bezos and Mayorkas. So let me just share that image with you again. And the fact is, Bezos doesn't really have much to do with this story other than he's a clone of Mayorkas. But what is interesting is they both have the Cuban communist connection. Here you go. Jeff Bezos gets teary remembering how his father fled from Cuba to the US at 16 years old, praising immigrants. Now, it goes even stranger because Bezos, apparently, that's his adopted father. So I don't know that he's actually Cuban by heritage. So it's interesting, though, that he's like, looks like the twin brother of Mayorkas. Now, Mayorkas is Cuban and he is Jewish. And I did have an acquaintance some years ago that I met that was Cuban and Jewish. And he said, I like to call myself Cubish. I thought that was clever. So Mayorkas is Cubish. So Mayorkas is basically ignoring and allowing and facilitating all of this to happen. So get this. The Cubish, right? The Cuban Jewish Mayorkas, who actually came to this country, I think he was just like a year old or something. But the reason I mention this heritage is because of his special connection to HIAS, the Hebrew Immigration Services Agency. And remember, that's the refugee organization getting millions of your money and my money and the money they print out of thin air to help these illegals get to the United States. I'm sorry, migrants. The manufactured migrants. Now, the special connection of Mayorkas with these manufactured migrants is that he was a board member for HIAS. Isn't that cozy? I just think that's so great. He was ensuring that millions and millions, and I don't know, maybe I'll just say millions of dollars of your tax dollars were going to transporting these manufactured migrants. And you know what his job was at that time? I didn't know this. Maybe you already did. He was the head of U.S. Immigration Services in the United States, all right, in 2020. He was appointed to this position, I think back in 2016, 2015, and I'll have a link for you in the SUBSTACK. And yeah, good old open borders Mayorkas, I think that's his middle name. He was the head of U.S. Immigration, United States Custom and Immigration Services, which was probably denying your own grandmother or other legal applicants from getting a visa to come to the United States. And at the same time, like, welcome wagon for the manufactured migrants. So he just likes to funnel those millions to his cronies in this Jewish organization. I find it very strange. Why don't they go to Israel? I'll ask again. I told you this was a vomit-worthy story. So the corruption in government is so rampant. You know what? I know it makes your head spin. And aside from exposing these public serpents, which I will continue to do, and sounding the alarm so that others can be awakened to their despicable actions, I mean, what can we do? I did a whole video. I did a portion of a video on that, and I have a link for you in my Substack. You know, I do admit that it does get psychologically, it wears you down from time to time. And I do get pulled under the waves. I am optimistic and determined, but sometimes I'm like, is this really going to make a difference? I mean, I actually ask myself this. I'm fighting for freedom, advocating for justice, pulling back the curtain on all of the corruption, spilling the beans on the evil ways. It's like, is it really going to have the impact that I wish it would? Now, many of you leave comments telling me that my encouragement has helped you, that you've stood up at your board meetings. You were able to keep your job. You were able to keep your children safe. I read an email from a woman working in a county, a conservative county in Florida. And I got additional emails from Healthy Americans also in Florida and in other states telling me that at the local level is where it's at. That's where they have the power. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. We may not be able to stop MAYORKAS and what's going on in Texas, but can we keep an eagle eye on Eagle Pass? Can we keep an eagle eye on the city council, on your own maybe HOA board, on the water board, on the county council? Heaven knows I've been fighting them for 3 years. It's exhausting, and they know that. They have unlimited resources. So, I may not be able to have an impact to stop what's going on at the border. It's highly unlikely I'm able to stop the funneling of these millions of dollars to the manufactured migrants. But I will not live in fear of what's going on. I'm not going to live in fear that these men of military age are now going to become a standing army against the United States. Brett Weinstein, you're off base here. Where's your evidence for that other than fear mongering? All right. I do not care for that. That instills fear in people. They could already do that. There's plenty of men of military age already. Those that didn't get the jab are still in the military, and obviously very easy to be manipulated and coerced into doing whatever the government wants. So don't fall for that narrative. I will not live in fear, and I will not fall for those narratives that are intended to induce anxiety and dread. I'm going to focus on my own life, my own health, my own finances, my own family, my own fun, my own freedom. And I'm going to be doing what brings me joy and using the gifts that God has blessed me with. One of those is I love to talk, and I love to give my opinion, and I love my Healthy Americans. And I love this channel, which is why I am fighting tooth and nail to outwit the nitwits and to keep this channel going on this platform. Yes, I'm on Rumble. I'm on BitChute. I have not uploaded recently because I want all y'all here. Let's strengthen this channel. Let's outwit the nitwits here. Let's outwit the algorithm by you resubscribing, giving this a like, a share, a comment, all that good stuff. And let's continue to expose these serpents, because evil thrives in darkness. That I know. We can rattle their cages. And I take heart knowing that with the grace of God, I will be able to persevere in this battle with you alongside me.